Hi guys, in today's lesson we will be learning about the measures of central tendency, range, and variability. Our learning targets for today are I can determine the mean, median, mode, and range for a set of numbers, and I can recognize situations that result in data with and without variability. Range and the measures of central tendency, mean, median, mode, are all values that summarize a set of data. The mean is a measure of average. The median is a measure of middle. The mode is a measure of most, and range is a measure of variability. The mean is the average of a set of numbers. To find the mean, add all the numbers in a given data set, then divide by the amount of numbers there are. We will always round to the nearest tenths place. In our example below, we see a set of numbers. First, we need to add them all together. We can group together numbers to add them and then add up all of our grouped numbers together. So I have added up the first three numbers, the second three numbers, and the last two numbers. And now I'm going to add up all of those answers that I got to get my final sum. So 185 plus 240 plus 175. Five plus 5 is 10, we'll carry our 1. 8 plus 7 is 15, plus 4 is 19, plus that 1 is 20. 2 plus 1 is 4, plus the 2 we carried is 6. So all of these numbers have a sum of 600. And our next step would be to divide by the amount of numbers there are. There are 8 numbers in our data set, so we will divide by 8. When we divide 600 by 8, we get 75. So the mean is 75 for this data set. Now let's solve a few guided practice problems together. We will find the mean for each set of data. So for our first set of data, I see 3 numbers, 89, 93, and 85. Our first step is to add those 3 numbers together. So 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 9 is 17. We'll carry our 1. 9 plus 8 is 17, plus 8 is 25, plus that 1 we carried is 26. So our sum is 267, and next I would want to divide by the amount of numbers that there are. There are 3 numbers in my data set, so I will divide 267 by 3. 3 can't go into 2, but it can go into 26 8 times. 3 times 8 is 24. And then we'll bring down our 7. 3 can go into 27 9 times. So our mean, or our average, for this set of data is 89. For our next data set, we will add together the 7 numbers in that set of data. When we add the numbers together, we get a sum of 203. Next, we will divide by the amount of numbers that there are. There are 7 numbers, so we will divide 203 by 7. Seven cannot go into 2, but it can go into 20 2 times. When we subtract, we get 6. And we bring down our 3. 7 can go into 63 9 times exactly. So the mean or the average for this set of data is 29. The median is the number in the middle of the data set. To find the median, we will order the set of numbers from least to greatest, then find the number in the middle. Down below, we have a set of data, and then we see that it's been reordered from least to greatest. So that's our first step. Then we need to figure out which number is in the middle. We can cross out one number at a time until we reach the middle from either side. So we can cross out 12 and 101, cross out 25 and 90, cross out 34 and 79, 3 numbers from each side, and then we notice that we have a 1 number left over in the middle. This number is our median. Our median for this data set is 67. When finding the median, if you have 2 numbers left in the middle, find the mean of those 2 numbers. We can do this by adding them together and then dividing by 2. Down below, we have a data set, and our first step is to reorder the numbers from least to greatest. So that's been done for us. Next, we need to cross out numbers on both sides one at a time until we reach the number in the middle. So we can cross out 54 and 106, 69 and 91, and then we've got these 2 numbers left in the middle. So we will need to add them together. 83 plus 87. And we get 170. Then we need to divide by 2. And we get 85. So the average of the 2 numbers in the middle is 85. And so our median for this data set is 85. Now let's solve a few guided practice problems together. For each data set, we will be solving for the median. So we see our numbers in our first data set and they're out of order. We need to reorder them from least to greatest. So how we can do this is find the smallest number, 3, and then cross it out to know that we've already used it. Then I can find my next smallest number, 8, cross it out, then 10, 12, 16, 25, and 34. Next, I want to count all the numbers that I rewrote, which is 7, and I want to make sure that's the same number in my original data set. There are also 7 numbers in my original data set, so I know I used all of them, and I know that they're in order from least to greatest. So my next step to find the median is to cross out one number at a time from both sides until we reach the number in the middle. So we can cross out the 3 and the 34, the 8 and 25, the 10 and the 16, and then we're left with 12 in the middle. So our median for this data set is 12. For our next data set, again, we will need to order the numbers from least to greatest. So I'll find my smallest number, 11, cross it out, then 13, cross it out, 23, 37, 45, and 58. I have 6 numbers written down, and there are 6 numbers in my data set. So I know I have all of them, and they are in order from least to greatest. Next, I will cross out one number at a time from both sides till I reach the middle. I can cross out 11 and 58, 13 and 45, and then I'm left with 2 numbers in the middle, 23 and 37. I will need to add these together and divide by 2 to find the mean. (23 plus 37 is 60. We divide 60 by 2 and we get 30. So our median for this data set is 30. The mode is the number that appears the most often in a data set. It is possible to have more than one mode or no mode at all. Down below, we see a data set. Our first step is going to be to order this data set from least to greatest. This has been done for us. Next, we will look to see if there is a number that's repeated in this data set. We want the mode to be the number or numbers that are repeated the most. So I noticed that there are 2 12s in my data set, and all of the other numbers are not repeated. So the mode for this data set would be 12. Now let's solve a few guided practice problems together. For each data set, we will be finding the mode. Our first step is to order all of our numbers in order from least to greatest. So I will look for the smallest number, 17, and cross it out. Then 23, 23, 43, 56, 56, 89, and 89. Now that all my numbers are in order from least to greatest, I can easily see which numbers are repeated and how often they're repeated. So I notice that there are 2 23s, 2 56s, and 2 89s. Since each of these numbers are repeated by 2, all 3 of these numbers would be the mode for this set of data. So our mode would be 23, 56, and 89. For our next data set, we'll order the numbers from least to greatest. 13, 25, 36, 45, 69, and 78. Now that my numbers are in order from least to greatest, I can easily see if there are any numbers repeated. There are no numbers repeated in this data set, so there would be no mode. The range is the difference between the highest and lowest values in a data set. To find the range, subtract the smallest value from the largest value. Below we're given a data set, and our first step will be to order these numbers from least to greatest. So this has been done for us. Next, we will want to identify our smallest value and our largest value. Our smallest value is 12 and our largest value is 62 for this data set. So we will want to find the difference between these two numbers. When we subtract 62 minus 12, we get 50. So the range for this data set is 50. Now let's solve a few guided practice problems together. For each data set, we will be finding the range. Our first step is to order all of our numbers from least to greatest. 11, 17, 17, 22, 36, 43, 56, and 71. Now we can easily see what our smallest value and largest value is. Our smallest value is 11, and our largest value is 71. We need to find the difference of these two numbers. 71 minus 11 is 60. So our range for this data set is 60. In our next data set, we will order the numbers from least to greatest. 8, 29, 34, 55, 61, and 78. Next, we'll look for our smallest value and our largest value. 8 is our smallest value, and 78 is our largest value. So we will find the difference of the two. 78 minus 8 is 70. So our range for this data set is 70. For this guided practice problem, we will be finding the mean, median, mode, and range for this set of data. First, let's order the data set from least to greatest. 6, 14, 23, 37, and 80. First, we'll solve for the mean. We can add all of the numbers together in our data set and then divide by 5 the amount of numbers there are. When we add up the numbers, we get a sum of 160. Next, we can divide by 5 to solve for the mean. Five cannot go into 1, but it can go into 16 3 times. Bring down our 0, and 5 can go into 10 2 times. So our mean for this data set is 32. To solve for the median, we need to find the number in the middle of the data set. 23 is in the middle of this data set, so 23 would be our median. To solve for the mode, we need to look and see if there are any repeated numbers. There are no repeated numbers in this data set, so there would be no mode. Last, we need to solve for the range. To solve for the range, we need to look for our smallest value and our largest value. Our smallest value is 6, and our largest value is 80. So we need to find the difference of the two. 80 minus 6 is 74. So our range for this data set is 74. Next, we'll learn about variability. What does it mean for something to vary? If something varies, it means to be different. Would the results vary if you surveyed the class about each person's age? No, the results would not vary because each of you would be the same age. Would the results vary if you surveyed the class about each person's favorite sport? Yes, each person would have a different opinion on what their favorite sport was. So variability is when the data has different answers. The spread of the data is further apart the more the data varies. Now we'll talk about the difference between statistical questions and non-statistical questions. If you have a statistical question, this requires collecting more than one piece of data with variability in the data. An example of a statistical question would be, how much does it cost to buy a movie ticket? The data would vary based on the different movie theaters you could go to. Each movie theater would have a different cost. A non-statistical question only requires collecting one piece of data. An example of a non-statistical question is, how many months are in a year? There are 12 months in a year, so this only requires collecting one piece of data. Now let's solve a few guided practice problems together. We will decide whether each of the following survey questions yield variability when asking the people in this class. Question 1 is, how much do dogs weigh? The data would vary if we ask this question because there are all different types of dogs. We're not asking the question about a specific type of dog. There are Chihuahuas that weigh much less than a Great Dane, so we would see the data vary with this question. Question 2 is how many people are in this class? The data would not vary with this question because we only need to collect one piece of data to figure that out. Question 3 is what instrument do you play? The data would vary with this question because each student would likely play a different instrument or no instrument at all. Question 4, who is the principal at this school? The data would not vary with this question because there is only one answer. There's only one piece of data we need to collect. Question 5, how many pets do you have? The data would vary with this question because each student would have a different amount of pets at home or no pets at all. Now you will complete 2 independent practices on your own, solving for the measures of central tendency, range, and variability. Remember to ask for help if you have questions.